Thank you. And then that'll be kind of a shortish talk, and then I thought we would do some authentic relating activities so you guys can actually see what it is in practice and sort of get a taste for what it can be. So what is authentic relating? What am I even talking about? I still don't know how to answer this question very well. It's a relational practice, and it's sort of a set of exercises. We call them games, not in the sense of it being a competition with winners and losers, but just playful exercises that are that kind of give us space and encourage us to really like reveal ourselves more fully and more authentically in connection with other people, and to be received and to receive each other in that full authentic expression of the person across from you. And so I have found it as like one of the best practices I've seen of something that we talk about here quite a bit, which is deep listening. And we'll do an exercise later that's really just that. It's just how do you listen fully to what somebody is telling you without any sort of, our typical maybe desire to think of a response, or like, oh, what am I going to say? Or, oh, that reminds me of this thing from me that I want to tell you about now. It's like, how do we just receive what they're saying without trying to prepare a response, without feeling the need to kind of share a similar experience or something like that. So, and it's both sides of it, like I say. So it's authentic expression, but also receiving people fully in their authentic expression. So I was going to go through the the agreements that we do at the beginning of every session and sort of talk more in depth about them than I really have time for in a typical session. So we have about 10. We've sort of cobbled together these agreements from different authentic relating practices. I say we, me, and my co-facilitator that we've experienced with different groups. So the first one is simply welcome everything, also known as be present. So when I first heard the welcome everything, like that phrasing of it, I kind of didn't like it. It could, I think, be interpreted as like be a doormat, welcome everything. You just say welcome and everything walks across you. And it's not that. It is not be passive and just accept everything. It is welcome everything. And, in authentic relating and really outside of authentic relating, this means welcome all the good stuff and all the bad stuff as things that are present. And that's why I say it's also just be present. I'm happy about this, I'm mad about this, I am angry about this, I am ashamed about this. Like, welcome all that. Those are all just genuine emotional reactions to whatever stimulus has arrived. It could be in response to our own thoughts, it could be in response to something we see, it could be in response to something somebody says. But we just welcome all of it, and then from that space of welcoming and not resisting it and not trying to deny it and pretend like it's not happening, or try and like push it away, like, oh, I don't want to feel that way, so I'm going to try to force myself to feel a different way, which we all know never really works anyway. We just welcome it in, and from that welcoming space of kind of receiving it and being fully present with it, we can then choose how we want to respond. And sometimes the best response is just letting it be and like really feeling it, and then it passes. Whereas resisting a lot of times kind of gives that thing that we're resisting actually more strength, more power, and more tenacity. So that's our first agreement. And I will ask you if you actually agree to these. This is a very extended version of what we normally do in authentic relating. So I'm sort of explaining them and I'm reflecting on what they mean to me personally, but also I'm going to ask you if you agree to the agreements. So at the end of the talk, if you have any questions about that, what does that mean? What am I really agreeing to? You'll have time to ask that, but I will ask you, if you agree to these agreements, please raise your hand. And if we all agree, then we will proceed to kind of do some authentic relating activities that we have set the container for via these agreements. So our second agreement is check your assumptions. This is one of my favorites, and to me it ties in a lot to what we do here, which is recognizing mind stuff as mind stuff. And, I sort of see in this check your assumptions agreement that we're recognizing that really our entire experience of reality is via stories that our mind makes up and tells us. And it's like, I think I'm in a room looking at all of you, but I don't really know that in a fundamental way. It's like, I know my mind is feeding me that experience. Maybe I'm in the Matrix and I'm just in like a little vat of goo with like wires hooked into the back of my skull that are telling me that's the experience I'm having. There's really no way to sort of prove or disprove that. But on a more mundane level, especially when we're relating with other people, we can see somebody's facial expression or like the way they kind of hold their body language or the tone in their voice, how I notice I have a tendency to kind of trail off against my sentences sometimes and get a little soft-spoken. And our mind will like attach stories to what all those things mean. And if I'm kind of sitting here like this, it looks like, oh, maybe I'm a little uncomfortable and I don't actually want to be up here. I don't really like what I'm doing right now. And I kind of wish I could be somewhere else doing another thing. And it's not true. It's just like my hands are cold, and so I like to stick them under my armpits because it's more comfortable. Right? Either one could be true, and it's like as soon as we see somebody, without even really necessarily being conscious of it, we throw that, our minds throw that interpretation on it. So the agreement to check our assumptions is when you're interacting with somebody and they're having a reaction and you think it means something, you ask. Like, hey, I see that you're kind of like wrapping your arms around your torso and like you look a little uncomfortable. Do you want to stop what we're doing, or do you want to like change and do something different? It's like, no, I love what we're doing. I'm just cold. So that's how we can check our assumptions, especially in relations with other people. But like I say, this has really become a life practice for me because it's like, in a certain sense, everything is assumptions. And especially when it's about other people, it's like, oh, okay, that's a story that my mind made up about what that tells me about this person or what that means for this person right now. But I don't really know that until I ask them. And even then, I don't really know, I just know what they tell me. But that's our second agreement. So the third agreement is kind of what authentic relating invites us to do, which is reveal your experience. And so in so much of life, we don't really have that invitation to like reveal, particularly our inner experiences. And so this is an invitation to make the implicit explicit in certain contexts, kind of more outside of authentic relating games. This can involve setting context. And so it's like, if I'm out at lunch with a friend, is it a date or is it just friends having lunch? Like, if that's ambiguous, this is an invitation to say, this is kind of what I think this experience is and what I think we're doing. If you're having a conversation with somebody and you have some kind of emotional reaction stirring up, maybe you want to like let them in on that and reveal yourself a little more fully, and that can become like an invitation for that human-to-human connection. So it's really kind of an invitation to say the quiet part out loud. It's also like a chance to kind of take our mask off, let our guard down, and like I said, be seen more fully. Our fourth agreement is to own your experience. And so this is about sort of staying in our own power in a way. So I always like to give the example of like, if I say, the traffic driving over here was horrendous, it made me so angry. I've given the power of my anger, or like provoking my anger, to the traffic. And I've sort of given it away. So owning my experience would be like, I had to stop at all but one of the traffic lights because it was red. And I noticed that kind of ticked me off. Like, I had some anger that arose in response to that. So at least I'm owning my anger. Obviously I can't control the traffic lights, I haven't figured that out yet. But, I get to choose my emotional response, or at least acknowledge that it's mine and not like something that's been imposed upon me. In other contexts, again, going back to kind of interpersonal relations, This is a lot of like trying to stay out of judgment by staying in curiosity. And so if somebody says something that I find very provocative and offensive and like, wow, how could you possibly think that? Well, let me turn the tone of that question around and be like, huh, what's happened that you would think that? You know, where are you coming from that that makes sense to you? And that's a much more open, non-judgmental attitude that we can have, and staying in our own experience of kind of like, wow, I really don't get that, and I'm noticing that like it's stirring up some stuff for me, but that's not on them, that's my stuff. They just said a thing. And so that kind of goes hand in hand with setting context of like, if we know we're kind of in the same context and having the same conversation or talking about the same thing, you know, then we can kind of stay in that curiosity, hopefully, and stay out of judgment. Let's see if there's anything else to say about it. Yeah, it's about really kind of, again, accepting what's happening within and around ourselves without feeling the need to change it. I'm going to own my experience even though I can't control the reality within which I'm navigating. In a very kind of practical sense, when we're talking with each other, you know, one way of doing this is speaking in I statements. So again, not the traffic made me angry, but I noticed I had anger in response to the traffic. Not like, you pissed me off so much when you just said that. Like, wow, I noticed I had I had a lot of heat that rose in my chest when I heard you say that. Our fifth agreement is to lean into your edges. This is one of my favorite things about authentic relating. So you can kind of imagine like a couple concentric circles, like the inner circle where we live most of the time is our comfort zone. And it's familiar, it's comfortable, hence the name. But that's just kind of where we tend to operate most of the time because it's like we've learned that that is safe for us. Around the comfort zone is the borderland called the growth zone. And beyond that is what we might call the danger zone. I sometimes call it the freak out zone. And so the freak out zone is really like unknown and hence potentially dangerous, potentially psychologically dangerous. And that is where, like, you know, we get thrust into a situation that provokes that kind of like fight, flight, freeze response. But the growth zone is like, ooh, this isn't so comfortable. Like, I am kind of on the borderlands around my comfort zone, but I haven't pushed so far past my comfort zone that I'm out here in like freak out land. And, you know, the encouragement is to sort of lean into that edge of the comfort zone and explore the growth zone around it. And I have found personally, like in doing that, you know, in multiple sessions of authentic relating, and then sort of carrying that practice out into the world and like other aspects of my life, my comfort zone has grown. And in some ways it's grown tremendously. And by exploring that growth zone and being like, oh, I survived. Oh, it was okay. Oh, I actually had a really good experience over there when I was scared it could go completely wrong. And like, oh, I've said things to people that I was like, I don't know if they're ever gonna talk to me again after I reveal this. And they were like, cool, like, that's a really fascinating thing. Now I'm even more curious about getting to know you better. Or whatever it may be. But exploring that growth zone around your comfort zone, yeah, I'll just, from personal experience, can be like tremendously beneficial. So the encouragement is to lean into your edges and sort of maybe, you know, I also think of it as like trying on different versions of yourself. And so it's kind of like, oh, you know, I normally kind of operate in this way, but maybe I'll be a little more like this thing, but I kind of generally wish I could be more like this. So I'm going to try it on for size in this container where it feels a little more safe and like a place to experiment and play around with that and see how it goes. And then I can sort of take that beyond this room if I feel like it's a good fit. That's made somewhat easier by our next agreement, which is called positive regard. And so we're all agreeing to hold each other in positive regard. That's something along the lines of like giving each other the benefit of the doubt. It is assuming, because we're all agreeing that we're all doing it, that we're all here with best intentions, and we're here just to kind of express ourselves and our own truth, and not to like try and provoke an argument or start a fight or put anybody down. Like we're just here to kind of reveal ourselves and be witnessed in that. And we're gonna hold each other in that positive regard, which makes it therefore a little easier to reveal ourselves because we know this is a container where we have all agreed, we're not here to judge each other, we're not here to try and like fix or make it correct or like all agree on a certain thing even. We're just here to kind of express and be witness. And that may even, involve a realization that like, wow, your reality and my reality kind of different in some ways. Like, that's fine. We're all kind of, again, in our own little mind bubble. And, we have certain overlap. That's how we get to interact. We can reveal ourselves, which kind of brings our individual realities a little closer together sometimes. But, my experience up until this moment has been unique, and it's not the same as any of yours. And any of yours are not the same as anybody else's. So, it's natural that we would come to this point in time and space with different ideas and different interpretations of even the same thing that we're both seeing happen. That doesn't make anybody right or wrong, it's just recognizing that's what's happening. So our next agreement is to honor self and honor others. So honoring yourself is like knowing your own values and what's important to you and how to construct and name boundaries based on those values. And so that others are honoring your values and not sort of accidentally putting you in a position that makes you uncomfortable where you have, just that. Just kind of naming your boundaries based on your own values and sort of knowing what that is. Honoring others is just respecting that. So if somebody has a boundary of like, I'm not really comfortable being touched in this particular exercise. Great, we're not gonna touch you. I'm not comfortable touching somebody else, even if they're comfortable being touched. Great, that's fine. So just kind of taking care of yourself and helping others take care of themselves. So yeah, two more. The next one is, we are not here to fix, change, or heal anybody. So things that come up in authentic relating can often kind of feel somewhat liberating and healing and whatnot, and sometimes it's just silly and fun. But that's not really the purpose of the exercise. The purpose of the exercise is, as I say, is really just to express and to be witness in expression. If somebody's expressing something really difficult and it's clearly like there are some big emotions around that, we just kind of let them have that experience. And if they need some support and they ask for it, that's what I'm here for, that's what we can do for each other. But it's not like we need to try and help them. Sometimes somebody just needs to have an expression and let it out. It may even be something as kind of mundane as like, I don't think he's following the instructions for the exercise and doing it right. That's okay. We're all just here to have an experience. It's not like you have to do it exactly as it's described. In fact, everything is optional. So if something is like, I don't want to do that, that's a way of honoring yourself. It's like, that's not for me right now. I am kind of interested in doing that, but not in the way it's described. Can I get a modification? Can I do it this way? Like, yeah, again, that's honoring yourself, and we'll work it out and kind of make sure that everybody's participating in a way that feels beneficial to themselves. And our last one is confidentiality by request. A lot of times the invitations and some of the exercises can, invite us to get into something that we wouldn't normally reveal, and maybe wouldn't reveal to a stranger, or maybe wouldn't reveal to anybody. But because of the way it's going or the instruction, and you're like curious about it yourself, you're like, yeah, okay, I am going to talk about this, but let's just keep it between us. So it's not like everything is assumed, like we're all just telling secrets and you can never talk about what came up. But if you are sharing something that feels like private, a little vulnerable, a little tender, and you don't want it to be talked about later outside of the container that you're sharing it in, just say so. Just say, hey, I'm requesting confidentiality. Let's just keep this between us. And we're all agreeing to give that each other when it's requested. So those are the 10 agreements. Do you have any questions about any of them? I know it was kind of like drinking from a fire hose. But Yes,
Can you just say them, each one, just like the
just the
word
two
phrase?
word, yeah. So it's welcome everything, check your assumptions, reveal your experience, own your experience, lean into your edges, positive regard, honor yourself and honor others, not here to fix, change, or heal anyone, confidentiality by request. Because there's none. All right. If you agree to the agreements and our further exercises that we'll do for the next half hour, please raise your hands.